everybody. Good to see you again. Good to share more of these wonderful things from the Gospel of Mark. And hopefully before we've got today, you've read chapter 8, got the pattern now. And this chapter begins the revealing of the answers to the question, who is this Jesus? It's what we've been building to. It's where we've been headed. But first of all, let's keep you in suspense for a little bit longer. I want to talk about a couple of unusual phrases. The leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. What's that all about? Well, I guess we kind of know what leaven is. It's like yeast. It's stuff that you put in bread and it permeates the whole thing. It makes and affects the whole thing. And there's actually another leaven that Jesus mentions elsewhere, and that's the leaven of the kingdom. So let me just reel back a bit and remind you of the context of this. This is actually the second time Jesus was present at a miracle of food multiplication. Slightly different numbers this time, slightly different amounts of stuff that he starts from. And the disciples hadn't learnt the lesson from the first time. They kept asking the same thing. They reacted the same way. They just hadn't got it. They didn't really get and see that Jesus did the multiplication through them and by them. And they again were found themselves looking for natural explanations and tactics to solve the problem. And Jesus says, how is it you don't understand? How can you not it was like one of those moments. You go like, guys, we've been here twice now and you're not getting it. Why is that? And he tells them to beware the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. So what's that about? Well, it's about different ways of thinking. So the leaven of Herod is about political, strategic, kind of all the influence system. People who kind of in that system, they don't mind you believing in God. They just want you to bring him into the equation. They just don't want you to talk about him. It's kind of an atheistic influence based in society and based in thinking. It's based on the strength and on man-based systems. Herod's leaven excludes God entirely. Its statement of faith is cynical. God helps those who help themselves. The Bible doesn't say that. That's the leaven of Herod. So if you found yourself in a boat with these sort of guys, these Herod guys, the person under this influence would say, well, next time, this is what you got to do. You've got to have a plan, you've got to have a strategy, you've got to be a better leader in this thing. Write a list. Remember, bring bread, bring money. Make sure you're never too far away from a shop. And that's the answer. You always the answer to your own problem. Take responsibility for yourself. Be a self-made person. And many times we live life influenced by that sort of Herod's leaven, which is practical atheism. The temptation to face day-to-day situations without ever bringing God into the picture. And Jesus warns us against that. What's the leaven of the Pharisees? Well, the leaven of the Pharisees is this. It's God kind of at the centre of everything, but he's distant, he's impersonal, and he's powerless. The concept of God is essential to the Pharisee, but the experience of God in real relationship is completely missing. So if you found yourself without bread in the boat with these sort of guys, the Pharisee would say to you something like, well, maybe he'd say, God in his sovereignty has arranged for you to be in this boat without any bread, so you can better identify with people who haven't got any bread. Or maybe they'd say something like this, you need to do more to satisfy God before he'll care about you and look after you. Pharisees provide explanations but not solutions. They insist you pray, but also insist that you should have no hope of God answering. They tell you to pray, but then tell you you'll never be good enough for God to answer those prayers. And Jesus is warning us against that way of thinking. So what's that third leaven? What's the right way to shape our thinking? And that's called the leaven of heaven. So when Jesus asks this question, how is it you don't understand? He's trying to shake them free from the logic and reason that's tied to resources and natural ability. It wasn't just that they should have remembered that he multiplied food for them. It was that seeing the miracle, they should have changed their thinking. Something should have changed. Kingdom thinking knows that anything is possible at any time. And it's activated when we surrender to the thought patterns of God and learn to receive his principles and ways of doing things. With Christ, all things are possible. I'll be back tomorrow. Read the next chapter and I'll see you then.